First at 5. From the University of Florida's College of Journalism and Communications, you're watching WUFT News.
Sex crimes against children are rising in Florida. That's according to a new FDLE report. This is WUFT's First at 5. I'm Juan Chaoui.
And I'm Roches. 3 Gainesville men are among the most recent convictions for these types of crimes. WUFT's Sarah Howard is live outside GPD headquarters. Sarah, you spoke with law enforcement about their efforts to put an end to these types of crimes.
I'm right in front of the Gainesville Police Department, where they tell us 3 men received a combined sentence time of 55 years. One of the men even exposed himself in front of 3 minors at Target. These arrests have law enforcement and parents thinking of ways to keep their children safe. Swinging, sliding, just playing at the park. That's what Karen Ortiz and her children love to do.
The honest in my life, I feel like every baby, every kid is a blessing to God. They keep me going every day.
Her kids are the most important thing in the world. That's why, in the back of her mind, she knows she has to stay vigilant.
We need to make sure that we keep them safe, because keeping them safe also helps us know that we're doing a good job.
The Office of Program Policy Analysis and Government Accountability reports the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Sex Offender Registry lists more than 78,000 offenders and predators. More than 30,000 of these individuals reside in Florida. This number has grown 62% since 2005. Gainesville Police Department is grappling with what it refers to as a disturbing trend. Detective Desiree Rossano says just 2 weeks ago, 3 men were sentenced for committing sex crimes against minors.
It's not common that we receive 3 sentences in a week. These investigations have been ongoing for about a year each.
All 3 must register as sex offenders after their sentences conclude. The arrests alarmed Karen and mother of 5, Daly Rodriguez.
Just creating those safe spaces with people that our children know that they can be safe with is extremely important for me.
Authorities want to remind you.
If something comes up, if they want to tell you something, if they're acting nervous or scared, give them a chance to say something to you.
Because she says sometimes children see and hear things that adults don't. Authorities say the most effective way to protect your children is through community support, education, and vigilance. They want you to be watchful of online activity. Be aware of who your children interact with and recognize the signs of potential abuse. Remember to regularly talk to your children about personal safety and boundaries. And most importantly, listen to them. Live from Gainesville Police Department, I'm Sarah Howard, WUFT News.
The Ocala Police Department is also working to protect children from potential predators. Officers are holding a town hall later this month focused on protecting kids online. Parents and guardians will hear from local law enforcement who handle cases involving children and online crimes. They will also learn ways to keep your children safe as they navigate the digital world. The town hall will happen Monday, September 16th at 6 p.m. at the CF Weber Center. Please note this event is for adults only, as sensitive content will be discussed.
The State Fire Marshal is working to learn what caused a popular Williston restaurant to go up in flames. WUFT photographer Ella Thompson captured these images of Melanie's restaurant owners inspecting the damage. The Williston Fire Department says they got the call around 1:30 in the morning. They cleared the area a few hours later around 5. More information on the causes of the fire and the damage will be available when the investigation is complete. Melanie's restaurant has been around for about 16 years, and the restaurant's social media page has posted about plans to rebuild. The start of September also signals the peak of hurricane season. Our area has already been affected by Hurricane Debbie last month, and the trio of systems brewing in the tropics could also have an impact. WUFT's Sofia Mendez is live in the studio with more on how state emergency management officials are urging Floridians to get prepared.
Governor Ron DeSantis issued a proclamation declaring September as Florida Preparedness Month. Today, the Florida Division of Emergency Management laid out several steps neighbors can follow to give them their best chance of staying safe if and when a storm hits. One named storm has already made landfall in Florida, Hurricane Debbie. Debbie moved through the Big Bend region in early August as a Category 1 storm. FPREN meteorologist William Maxim tracked Debbie and says there could be similar storms as activity increases in the coming weeks.
There's no reason to think that we won't still see an active hurricane season. Things are starting to heat up again. There's actually 3 areas of interest that we're watching right now, and we're thinking that there's still a good chance that we could see a storm. There's a chance that we could see a storm develop
State leaders say Floridians can take several precautions to prepare. Those steps include making a plan, building a disaster supply kit, knowing your evacuation zone and your home, having at least a half tank of gas or charging that electric vehicle, and finally, if you have to evacuate, don't go hundreds of miles away.
And I think when you are trying to prepare for a hurricane, you need to make sure that you have an adequate supply of water for several days, and you want to make sure that you have food for several days and a way to heat it if you lose power. And the time to get that already is well before the storm, not right before.
Debbie left behind significant flooding damage, and the Florida Department of Emergency Management says they have already provided $100 million to the area for recovery efforts. Last month,
and as this year's hurricane season heats up, we take a look back at last season and the damage Hurricane Idalia left behind. Head to WUFT.org to watch our special report on the one-year anniversary of when the major hurricane hit our area.
As Sofia just mentioned, we are in the peak of the hurricane season, and the National Hurricane Center.
Okay, so we do have 3 areas of development out into the Atlantic. You can see I'm kind of in the middle of them. The good news is none of these should be in effect for our area. You can see this group of storms in the southern Caribbean is expected to move off into the western Gulf, and you can see these 2 off in the Atlantic probably won't even make landfall if they even develop, as they'll just go off into the Atlantic. Now, we are tracking some storms in our area right now. We do have a strong line from the Nature Coast all the way towards 75 east of Williston, and a couple strong storms south of Palaca that are just building up and dumping rain down. So we are seeing a lot of rainfall totals in our area. Now, taking a look at where our campus cam in Gainesville, 84 degrees, you can see some of the storms off into the distance and a couple lingering clouds over the stadium. It feels like it's 91 because of that dew point. It's feeling really muggy. I'll have more coming up on those soaking rains, the flooding that could be possible from these rainstorms, and the tropical forecast.
Former UF wide receiver Ricky Pearsall will miss the first 4 games of the 2024 NFL season after being shot on Saturday afternoon. The San Francisco 49ers first-round pick suffered a gunshot wound to the chest in a robbery attempt at an autograph signing this past weekend. Pearsall's mother reported that the gunshot missed his vital organs and that he's expected to make a full recovery. San Francisco PD says the suspect was arrested right after the shooting.
Coming up on WUFT's First at 5, Vice President Harris has her sights set on the Florida voters, the push she's making to turn Florida into a battleground state. And a Florida deputy's gun stolen, the mistake investigators say he made, and how 2 men allegedly got their hands on the weapon. We're back after the break.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Vice President Harris is using the final 2 months before Election Day to shore up votes in Florida, in what some political analysts believe could play a factor in deciding who takes the White House. The VP and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, started their bus tour in Palm Beach County. This is the county where her opponent, former President Trump, resides. As Julia Benbrook reports, the bus tour will focus on reproductive rights in multiple battleground states.
The Harris campaign is launching the Fighting for Reproductive Freedom bus tour.
This tour is going to go to over 50 stops across the country.
And it's kicking off just miles away from former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida, a state where most abortions after 6 weeks are illegal.
We are the poster child for the MAGA extremism that has ripped women's reproductive health care decisions from them. A ban so extreme that it is likely that most women don't even know that they're pregnant at 6 weeks.
In the fall, voters in the state will decide on the future of abortion access through a ballot measure that would make abortion legal in the state up to the point of viability, which many experts believe is around 23 or 24 weeks of pregnancy. Polling shows abortion is a top issue this election, and it's one where Trump has struggled to define his position. His suggestion that he might support the Florida referendum that would undo the state's current ban angered some religious conservatives.
It has to be more time, and I've told them that I want more weeks.
So you'll vote in favor of the amendment?
I'm voting that I am going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks.
The next day, Trump clarified that he plans to vote no. Florida is just one of several states where voters will have the chance to weigh in on abortion rights in November. Reporting in Washington, I'm Julia Benbrook.
A Central Florida deputy is under scrutiny and 2 men are in jail charged with selling the deputy's gun. The deputy, who has not been named, works for the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. A report says he left his department-issued gun in the restroom of a convenience store. He noticed his gun was missing when he went to a call, but by then, a report says Damari Dennis and Chance Byron entered the bathroom and saw the gun. Investigators say Byron was seen on surveillance video leaving the store with the gun under his shirt. By the time detectives caught up with the pair, they said they had sold it. Both suspects are facing grand theft of a firearm charges, and there's no word yet on if the deputy will face any consequences. Investigators were able to recover the gun.
Florida health charts showed 10.6% of Floridians were food insecure in 2021. One Florida food nonprofit is distributing food to those Floridians in the Levy County area. FarmShare will host its free food distribution event tomorrow at Inglis AmVets Post, located on 405 County Road. Recipients will receive fresh produce and non-perishable canned goods. The distribution starts at 8 a.m. and will run while supplies last. Distributions are drive-through only to minimize contact and to help ensure the safety of all parties involved. Attendees must arrive in a vehicle with a trunk or a cargo bed.
Heavy downpours will continue through the weekend and some flooding could be possible. I'll have that and more coming up.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
Overlooking radar right now, you can see there's a few storms across the state right now. We have a long line of storms right now from Williston spanning all the way up until Cross City. And we do have this storm south of Palaca that's starting to rain itself out. And I want to zoom in on that one real quick because these storms really aren't moving. They're just blowing up and then they're starting to rain themselves out. And when they're doing this, it's causing a lot of downpours of rain. So Bakerstown seeing a lot of rain, Crescent City just saw a lot of rain. And as it starts to dissipate, the rain will go away. But this is because of this weather setup that we are in. You can see the stationary front right here tailing up until North Florida, and it's bringing in a lot of moisture from the Gulf and the Atlantic. And this moisture is bringing in a lot of instability in the air, causing these parcels to rise, which causes these storms. And now because it's a stationary front, these storms really aren't moving, so they're building up and they're causing a lot of rain. And with this rain, it causes a flash flood risk. Now we do only have a marginal risk in North Florida from pretty much Gainesville all the way up until Valdosta, South Georgia. But this is because of these strong thunderstorms building up and they're slow moving, dumping a lot of rain on the area. Now temperatures right now, we're seeing relatively moderate temperatures, 82 in Gainesville, 79 over in Brunson. And that's just because of the rainfall that we're seeing. It's cooling these temperatures down, but that dew point is still really high. Hour by hour right now, you can see those rain chances start to subside as we head into the late evening, 90% right now, and those temperatures start to subside as we head into the later parts of the morning hours. Now, you can see on tropical satellite, we're tracking 3 areas of storms. Now, I want to touch on the first one real quick that only has a 30% chance, and it's this group of storms that's projected to move into the western Gulf of Mexico. Only a 30% chance. We could see that produce landfall if it even develops. Now, these other 2 off in the East Atlantic, 10% for this one, and over off the west coast of Africa, we have a 30%. I don't expect these to make landfall, as if they develop, they'll just tail off into the Atlantic Ocean. Future radar right now, you can see those storms start to move west as we head into the late night hours. Wednesday morning, we don't really see rain, but as we start getting into Wednesday afternoon, we start to see those storms really start to flare back up and start to dump rain on us. Now, because of the rainfall through Sunday, you can see 5 inches is possible in Cross City, Lakeside, and in Jacksonville, 3 throughout Gainesville, McCanopy, and Reddick. Now, just jumping ahead on our 7-day outlook, you can see those rain chances remain relatively constant. You can see those temperatures aren't really that high because of those rain chance totals, 80% through Thursday, all the way into early next week into Monday.
While the Florida Gators football team is looking to bounce back from a turbulent season opener against the Miami Hurricanes, they aren't the only Sunshine State squad that's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start this fall. The Florida State Seminoles made the wrong kind of history with their loss to Boston College last night. We'll have more on FSU's free fall in the polls this week and more after the break.
You're watching WUFT-TV News.
I'm Jack Meyer here with everything you need to know about what's going on in the wide world of sports today. We're starting off at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium as the Florida Gators are still recovering from a disastrous season opening loss to the Miami Hurricanes. WUFT's Ben McLeish has more on what went wrong for UF and how the team will look to potentially get back on track.
Over 90,000 fans piled into the swamp to watch the Gators play their first game in over 9 months. But Florida did not give the fans much to celebrate, with the Miami Hurricanes defeating them 41-17. After suffering the biggest loss in the Swamp since 2015, Gators head coach Billy Napier didn't mince words when discussing Florida's performance.
I mean, it's embarrassing, to be quite honest with you. Yep. That's how I feel. That's how our kids feel.
The Gators offense struggled to move the ball in the first half, scoring only one touchdown on a Montrell Johnson breakaway run. But in the third quarter, freshman quarterback DJ Lagway made his collegiate debut following a Graham Mertz concussion. Despite initial struggles, Lagway showed his potential, leading the Gators on an impressive touchdown drive. But by then, it was too late. Miami pulled away in the second half behind Cam Ward's stellar Hurricanes debut. With Mertz in concussion protocol, his status for Saturday's game against Samford is up in the air. But if Lagway is the one under center Saturday, Napier shared positive takeaways about Lagway's performance.
Obviously, he's a young player, but he'll continue to work and improve. He's got a bright future.
Regardless of who starts at quarterback, the Gators will look to bounce back from their dreadful opening day performance. Until today, the Gators had not lost a home opener since 1989. Reporting from Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, Ben McLeish, WUFT Sports.
Now, things may not seem great for the Gators as of right now, but heading up a few hours north of Tallahassee, the Florida State Seminoles aren't looking too hot either. FSU is coming off another shocking loss, this time at the hands of the Boston College Eagles, to drop to 0-2 to kick off the 2024 campaign. Seminoles quarterback DJ Uiagalelei once again struggled to hit his marks, completing just 21 of his 42 passes on Monday night. Beyond a pair of impressive catches from wide receiver Kentron Poitier in the third quarter, FSU managed to generate next to no offense throughout the evening, going 3 for 14 on third downs and only picking up 21 yards on the ground. This marks FSU's second consecutive loss following a Week 0 stunner that saw the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets knock off the defending ACC champions in a 24-21 upset win. These back-to-back losses were enough for the previously 10th-ranked Seminoles to fall out of the top 25 entirely. FSU did not receive a single vote in this week's AP poll, making them just the third team since 1989 to start a season in the top 10 before immediately falling out of the top 25 in the first poll of the season. Now let's take the show out west to Colorado, where the Florida Gators volleyball team is coming off an impressive slate of action. Florida went 3-0 in the land of the Rockies this weekend to start off its season in style. The Gators came away with a pair of victories over Colorado State and Northern Colorado earlier in the weekend before completing their 3-0 sweep with a dominant performance against Michigan State on Sunday evening. All this came in spite of preseason All-SEC team member Alexis Stuckey sitting out the entire weekend, as she continues to recover from a torn ACL she sustained last season. Florida's impressive start to the new year has apparently turned some heads, as the Gators have now officially entered the top 10 in the latest NCAA coaches poll. UF will return to the Stephen C. O'Connell Center this coming weekend to play host to USF, Southern Indiana, and Ohio State in the Florida Invitational. Now we're going to stay put on the volleyball court, as tonight will feature plenty of high school action across the greater North Florida area. The Trenton Tigers will kick tonight's slate off by playing host to the St. Francis Catholic Wolves at 6 p.m. Later on in the evening, the Buchholz Bobcats will hit the road to take on the Westport Wolfpack at 6:30 p.m. Wrapping up the day's festivities, the undefeated the Rock Lions will take on the 6-3 Santa Fe Raiders. That match is set to kick off at 7 p.m. And finally, the Tampa Bay Rays are set to make their way back onto the diamond against the Minnesota Twins this evening. Jeffrey Springs is expected to take the mound for Tampa Bay tonight, with first pitch set for 6:50 p.m. Tampa Bay is coming off a 5-4 loss to Minnesota last night, so hopefully they can use this to possibly get back on track.
Yeah, you know, Jack, I'm originally from Tampa, so I'm a huge Rays fan.
Oof, I mean, they've been under 500 for pretty much the entire year, so hopefully things get better for you guys eventually.
Yeah, and I gotta say, that loss must really be raining on your parade. And speaking of rain, Matthew, I hear we're gonna be getting a lot of it this week. Can you give us one last good look at the weather?
Yeah, as you can take a look on that 7-day outlook, those rain chances remain relatively high through Thursday into the weekend. Temperatures on the good news don't reach the 90s for the most part, because by the time it gets to that high temperature, it's starting to rain, cooling those temperatures down. So it is going to be kind of rainy as we head throughout this week.